For Crema Media's Polity, I'm Sane Dhlamini. Researcher and analyst Professor Raymond Suttner joins me to discuss recovering ethical qualities in public life. Welcome, Professor.
Thank you.
In raising ethical questions repeatedly, are you not aiming at the impossible? Is it practical to try to have an ethical public life?
Yeah, I've been thinking quite a lot about this, and I think you don't have to read Aristotle and Plato and Marx and all these people to have ethical qualities. If you look in this building, someone is standing in a queue, someone pushes in front of some old granny or bumps her out of the way, or someone trips. There are some people who get up, help the person up. Or if they see a child about to cross in the parking lot in front of a car, someone may intervene. Now, all of those are ethical forms of ethical conduct. And what we really need to recognize is that many people are already practicing ethical conduct in a range of spheres of their lives. It may be that some people are very ethical in the home, but when they get to work, they're unethical. But the core of ethical behavior, as far as I'm concerned, relates to behaving with integrity, caring about other people, these types of values. So in your relationship with your husband, are you truthful? Can you trust one another? Do you care? If you see the person looks unhappy, do you ask them why? Or do you think maybe they're ill? Do you do something about it? So what we have to do when we are concerned about ethics in public life, we have to transfer these qualities which we already see in private lives into public life. And we have to ask ourselves, is a particular person someone I can trust with funds as a public office bearer? Is the person someone whom I can trust to carry out what he or she undertakes to do? And a lot of the problems that we are having at the moment in South Africa relate to breach of trust and lack of integrity. So when the Constitutional Court made a legal decision with regard to Nkandla or the social grants crisis, that legal decision related to conduct which was in breach of ethics. The funds for Nkandla were meant to be put to public use. In particular, they were meant to be for poverty relief. Instead, they were diverted into the benefit of a particular individual. In the case of the social grants crisis, we haven't yet got to a full exposure of what may well have been extensive corruption in these work streams and a whole lot of things. Now, the way that was done, or the way it was not done, whatever corruption there may well have been, there was nevertheless a breach of care. The minister was charged with a responsibility. Every ministry is devoted to a particular task, which you are supposed to, you swear under oath that you will undertake these tasks. That particular ministry was charged with concern for the most vulnerable in South African society. Because we are not dealing adequately with inequality, social grants are very important in that they lift some people out of absolute poverty. If you have inequality and you have no form of social welfare, or social welfare is not reaching the people, or they are getting deductions along the way that are illegal. All of these things were were in many ways compromised. Then you are showing a lack of concern for the constituency. So what I'm saying really is, if you read any book on leadership, and when I first started to study leadership, I looked at a YouTube video of quite a conservative politician, Colin Powell, who was, I think he was in Reagan's administration or George W. Bush, and he talked about leadership, and the first point he raised was trust. Now what we need to do is find leaders whom we can trust. Find leaders who take the values that many of them will practice in their home life. They may not practice it in their home life, so that what they do in public life is a version of what they do at home. But try and get the small-scale moral behavior that I've referred to and transplant that to public life.
Now you also link ethical questions in public life to the notion of patronage. How does one remove patronage?
Yes, you see, what I'm saying is, in order to understand unethical behavior in South Africa, we cannot just say, is he honest or is he not honest, or is she honest or is she not? How did she pay for that car and all of that? What we've got to do is locate it. It takes more than one person to have a dishonest act. You have a dishonest act with someone else, or you derive an unfair benefit with someone else. And in South African politics, and it didn't start with Zuma, you have patronage relationships where you have powerful patrons, individuals, and there are people who are attached to them, who defer to them, who may have helped them to get into their position, and in exchange they get some benefits. And so when we are talking about the benefits that someone has derived from the ANC being in government, you are actually talking not just of the ANC giving benefits to all its members. You're talking about networks, groups that have derived benefits because they are close to a particular leader or particular powerful individual. And this, to me, is not just a question of benefits, it's also a question of democracy. Because people who are within a circle of a powerful individual in politics tend to bypass ordinary democratic processes in favor of informal relationships of patronage. And in those informal relationships, they make decisions. Like the ANC has a deployment committee. But does the deployment committee actually make decisions on who goes where? Or is it the president and his cronies who make those decisions? So what we've got to do is democratize our organizations. Say that the decisions of the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, and ANC and whatever it is, decisions need to be made by the membership themselves, not by these small groups. So that is, to me, the way we will deal with this patronage. We won't be able to eliminate networks altogether, because some networks are they're legitimate. For example, if I want to go to get a ticket for some football game, and I know you've got a contact, your brother is the something or other, it's legitimate for me to say, help me get this ticket. See, as long as there's nothing dishonest. Now, those networks, there will always be. However, as long as there's nothing dishonest, it is legitimate. And democracy, more democracy, means less patronage.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
That was Professor Raymond Suttner speaking to Creamer Media's Polity about recovering ethical qualities in public life.